Hi, and welcome to this video series covering partner integration scenarios using APIs for SAP SuccessFactors. In this video, we'll take a look at how to create your API user. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing is I'm going to be using the Cloud Ops portal for my demo tool or my instance that I'm going to be using as my system here. I've actually already provisioned an instance, and so here I can see that my instance is ready. If I click on it, I can get to my company ID, which I'll need for my login purposes. And then I have a link. If I go ahead and click the link, then that's actually going to log me into my demo instance. And so this is where we're going to start to work. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do one more test. We're going to be using a tool called Postman to test our APIs. So let's go ahead and open that up and just test our connection to make sure that we're actually connecting into the system. You can download it from getpostman.com, or I already have it installed, so I'm just going to go ahead and launch mine. And here we see my Postman workspace. And I'm going to go ahead and click Create Request. And then we're going to do a simple get metadata request. Okay, then we want to go into the authorization tab. We're going to switch to basic authentication. And let's go ahead and log in with our admin user that we initially worked with just to check our connection. So it's going to be admin user at our company ID that we got from our system, and the password that we received in the email, or if you've changed your admin password. And let's send the request. And we'll let this process for a moment, and it should go out and make sure that we have our connection from Postman to our SuccessFactors system, in my case, the demo system. And we see our status response 200, meaning it worked correctly. And so now that we know that our system is up and running and we have connectivity to it, let's go ahead and create our specific API user that we want to use. Okay, let's get started. So we'll go back to our administration console. I'm logged in here with my admin user. And in creating an API user, I have two options. The first is I can go ahead and use the default API user that's been created for me, which is the SF API. So if I click on that, I see that I already have a user. And if I was just doing a demo or some testing, that would be fine. But really, we want to set up our own API user that we have control over. And for that, let's go back to our admin console. And we want to go to our tools area, and we're going to choose import employee data. And then I'm going to choose download template. And then under the selected entity, I'm going to do basic import. And then I'm going to choose generate template. And that's going to create a CSV file that will be downloaded to my desktop that I can then fill in the information for my API users. Okay, so I opened up that download in Excel and I filled in the information that we needed. So our status is active. I have a new user ID, SFAPI2. My username can be the same. My first name, I'll use API. My last name, I'll just put admin. You want to have an email, so you're going to use your email. For manager, we're going to have no_manager. For HR, we're going to have no_HR. And then over in the default locale, we'll put in English or EN_US. So once I filled in that information on row 3, I'm going to go ahead and save that file. I'll just save it to my desktop for now. Let's go back to the admin center. We're going to go back and choose import data. And then for the entity, we're going to use basic import again. And now we can browse to the file that we just saved to the desktop. And then we want to click on the validate import file data. We always want to validate before we import. So if it validates, you should see the successful message. Now, the fields that I chose for my information on my API user were just for this sales demo. Obviously, you may have other fields that are required in your organization. But typically the API user doesn't have a lot of detail involved because it's a technical user used just for consuming or invoking the APIs. And now that we've validated, we can go ahead and click import. And if you want to then see if your user exists, you can go back to your users in the admin center and see that you have an additional user now. And here's my user that I just created. So our next step, whether we're using an existing API user or we're going to use our new API user, is to go ahead and update the password, because we're going to use the password to authenticate the user or make any additional API calls. So we want to go to the admin tools, and we want to reset user password. So here we want to put in the username. So let's pick the new user that I just created. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to create a new password. And I can confirm that and reset the user password. Okay, at this point we've set up our system and we've created our user. Now the next step would be to assign roles and permissions to our user. And we'll take a look at that in our next video. Thanks for watching.